How's it going, PC Nation? Welcome back to a brand new video. I love history. If you have followed my channel for the 8 years that it's been going, yes, 8 years this year, I can't believe it, that it's been going, you will see that I love history. I made history videos in the past, but this video is going to be another one, because I'm going to start making more history videos, because I love talking about history, I love talking about alternative history, and then all that. So this video is going to be called, What If Japan Conquered All of China? So during World War II, Japan was on a big let's see who we can conquer streak, joining the Axis powers. Well, Japan was like, well, we want to expand our nation. We have a tiny island nation. We want to expand it. Well, let's go to our counterparts, China. So, we all know how it ends. China does get a little bit of it, just a tiny bit of China gets conquered by Japan. After World War II, they are forced to give it back because, Axis loses, Allies win. Let's go into an alternative history here. What if Japan conquered all of China? So let's say during World War II, Japan gets a major victory by conquering China for the Axis powers. Axis still lose, but they let Japan decide if they want to give up China. No forcing Japan, no forcing Japan to give up China or the parts that it conquered. Just let it decide for itself. Well, there's a lot of alternatives here. First off, let's look at the real history. The Communist and the Republic. First, the Republic of China, which is now Taiwan, was ruling China. The Communists took over, and now it is and now the main party in China is the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP. The CCP is the current ruling head of China, and we all know how that's going. So, let's look at the what ifs. Let's go all the way back to 1945. World War II is going on. China and Japan go at it. Japan actually wins. And instead of conquering the little piece that they actually got in history, they decide, well, let's take the government. Let's conquer the whole dang country. They conquer the whole dang country, and they let them keep it. The Allies let them keep it. And now China is under Japan rule. What are they going to do? What will China, now China-Japan, in history books, do? First off, they're going to... Let's skip ahead and go to the revolution. Instead of the the communist part of China and the Republic part of China going at it for a revolution and a civil war, it's the Chinese Republic, which is now known as Taiwan, going at it against the Japanese government. The Japanese government makes China a puppet state, a puppet country. They let China still rule, but under Japanese rule. Japanese elected officials rule over China, just like the 13 colonies and the British. That's how it is. The Japanese emperor, at the time, rules over China. Even though China's like, why is this tiny nation ruling us? That's how it was with the British. But this time they're close. Well, they do have elected officials in the Chinese government that are from China, but they have to obey by the emperor and the prime minister of Japan's rule. So Japan breaks up a revolution against the People's Republic of China, which is, we all know, I keep repeating it, is Taiwan. So they bring down a revolution. And too afraid to stop the emperor and invade Japan because of the power Japan has over China, they keep the Chinese rule. The Chinese rule is no longer China. It is still called China, but it is in the history books now China puppet state. It's now a puppet state of Japan. Well, the revolution goes awful. Another plain revolution happens. By the way, this is alternative history. Another revolution happens, but this time the Communist Party of China is the revolutionaries trying to get the Republic of China Party to help them come up with a revolution to dethrone the current and only Chinese Japan-China government rule. That is the goal. Well, it fails. It fails to this day, and Japan is now the ruler, and will still rule China into days to come. Well, no more revolutions. What's next? The Japan Empire is now being grown. They decide to invade more countries. The Philippines. They decided to invade the Philippines now that they have their might with China and get their own Red Army. No Communist Party, Mao Zedong does not come to power, and the Republic of China does not become Taiwan. It is now just a part of China, part of Japan-China. So, they invade that. They take over Hong Kong as well. Take Hong Kong, make that part of the Japan Empire. Eventually, the Japan Empire goes to the Philippines, Indonesia, and takes over that. They are trying to become the next Mongolian Empire in the present day, 21st century. So, Japan, with their newfound wins over the Philippines and Indonesia, they move into Thailand, Vietnam, and all of Indo-Asia. And they go into, India as well. They take over India, and they try to take over Mongolia. So now they have a puppet state. Puppet states, puppet countries, puppet states, whatever you want to call them. They became the new USSR. Eventually, the 50s roll around, 60s, 70s, nothing changes. 80s, the USSR fell in 1991. So, 90s roll around, the puppet states get tired of being ruled by Japan, such a tiny, tiny nation in the middle of the ocean. So they decide to all come together and do what the USSR puppet states did. Defunct from Japan. So a civil war breaks out. Civil war that will go on for another 5 years. And Japan Empire finally falls. The US gets involved, and we have not World War III, but the US would get involved to help China and its allies, and then the Japan Empire falls and just becomes Japan. As we know it today, no other empire, no puppet states, no nothing. So what would happen? The Treaty of China gets signed. China becomes its own country again. But not under the rule of communism. Under the rule of a republic. They have an election every 4 years. They take in the same ideals as America, the country that would help them eventually get off the rule of Japan. The Empire of Japan at the time. And eventually Taiwan and Hong Kong separates from China and becomes their own, joining the UN and becoming a recognized country. This is alternative history, by the way. This is what if Japan invaded the whole of China and kept it. So, Japan falls and dissolves. It is still a country, China becomes its own country, and the relations between China and the U.S. become allies instead of bitter enemies, which we, not really enemies today, but have bad relations with China. China never falls to communism. Mao Zedong never became the leader and the president of China. And the Republic of China is what we would call it now, instead of what we call it, what the government is now. So the CCP, you would have the Republic Party of China, the RPC, the Republic Parties of China. And that is what if Japan took over, conquered all of China. Alternative history. I'm not going to call it alternative history, but that's a what if. Japan eventually falls and would never become a eventual superpower. Would never, ever, and had relationships between China and Japan and other countries and the Philippines will sour and probably never prosper. And that is my video. I'm going to do more alternative history and more history videos in the future, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, press the share button. Press the like button. Press the red shiny subscribe button. Press the bell to stay notified every time I upload video. I'll see you guys next video. Goodbye.